Thank you for joining us in this interview today with Sathish. Sathish, thank you for spending some time with us. Please do explain us a bit for what company you work.
I work for a company called UCB. UCB is a global biopharmaceutical company focused in creating value for people living with severe diseases in immunology and neurology. Yeah. At UCB, I work for global IT, so I'm responsible for IT applications management across the landscape of UCB and the value chain. So I'm responsible primarily in the role to design and implement operating models to sustain an application delivery across the company. And you can imagine I leverage a lot of external partnership and skills in realizing the scope.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So it looks like indeed you have quite a bit of expertise with setting up business partnerships and outsourcing contracts. Now, as you are also experienced in that, what would be those 2-3 elements when setting up a new contract or when renegotiating a new contract or an existing contract? What would be those 2-3 things that you say, well, look, we have to take that into account for a good new or renewal contract?
In my view, you should always have a feeling that the contract that you're designing is executable in the end, right? So there's a feeling that you should have at the beginning. And when you design these operating models or the contract per se, you should always have the people on the ground in your mind while designing it, and also the consumers on the other side, right? So everything that we do is in between, the engineer on one side and then the user on the other side.
Yes.
So I think you should always have them in mind while designing these contracts and operating models.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense indeed. To start from the ground, in fact, and building up that contract where it really happens. Now, for sure, you have seen challenges. So challenges on the field as well while renewing or negotiating a new contract. Can you share those with us? What would be the challenges you have to overcome in the past period?
These are generally long-term relationship, right?
Yes.
So whether it's a contract or an operating model that you need to sustain, most often the challenge is to keep everyone aligned when it comes to the objective. It's generally shared objective. There are many layers and stakeholders involved with this. One of the challenges is always keeping everyone aligned and interpreting the same way the shared objective.
Yes.
So that's a challenge.
That's a challenge. And you would do that typically through governance, I presume, that alignment, or what would be the tool or the technique to keep that aligned?
Yeah, there's no one silver bullet for that matter, but I rely a lot on communication,
Yes.
a lot on consistent communication and frequent communication to keep things sync. I think that's the only way that we can do, and there are many channels that we use, the many meetings that we use, and then I think it's all about being very precise and consistent and about your communications all the time.
So communication is definitely a key word. Any other thing in the execution of your governance that would be quite important next to communication?
I mean, specific to the governance, I think it should be more an enabler, right? So
Yes.
rather governance as a body which blocks certain things, right? So on the contrary, we at UCB, we look at governance to be much more an enabling function. Enabling means enabling faster decisions up the chain so that things are not stuck at layers when it comes to decisions, right? Escalation, so it escalates faster, right? Escalation not in the bad sense, right? So the decision are
enabling
taken,
the decision making.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yes.
it's taken faster, and then it doesn't take time, right? It's all about the timely decisions when it comes to such things as well. Yeah.
So, and that is, of course, communication and enabling the decision making in governance. Of course, you have seen, I believe, where things did not work well. So you have been in the field with some experience. Maybe you can share as well with us where some things in that you have tried in governance were more failing and were not really an enabler for that decision making and communication.
It's not. I mean, I've certainly experienced certain things, right? Whatever that you design and implement, it becomes at times difficult to execute certain things. But the learning for me is all about going back to the books, or not always looking at the contract, but you should have a kind of a relationship with your partners, that you're able to discuss things and change things if need by, irrespective of what is written in the contract.
Yes.
Right. So that's contract is there for a purpose, of course, right? So we need to go by what has been agreed over there. But I think you should also have a certain sense of relationship where you can always have the discussions in an ever-changing world, right? So what's written 2 years before is not applicable now, right?
True. So true.
So I think we need to keep a balance of how strongly we refer to a contract versus how good your relationship is balanced.
Now, one of these things to do good governance, I believe, is to talk about the right numbers, to talk about the correct figures and facts. And very often there is some technology that can support you in making sure you have the good dashboards and good results. Now, how important is for you as a contract owner the use of such technology to manage and monitor your contracts and your outsourcing agreements?
They're extremely important when it comes to reviewing a performance, right? So the classic SLAs and the KPIs on one hand. We have dashboards which relied on technologies. Some are in-house technologies that we have built on our own, and etc. Yes, we rely on technology to have the dashboards, to have a single source of truth, if you may. And then have the right numbers and also look at the perception.
I presume indeed that when you have to do it all with paper, and that will not really facilitate your collaboration in between the partners, I would say.
It's still a people business, right? So we need to have the right tools and processes, but then it takes a lot of people around to make this happen.
Good.
And the right partnership.
Thank you very much, Sathish, for joining us in this interview. Thank you as well for watching us. And I hope you have learned a bit more today on how contract and vendor management and governance can help you with the management of your outsourcing and business partnerships. Please stay tuned for more.